What's up, everybody? This is Michael in the Graveyard Shift with the Daily Trivia question once again in the wee hours of the night. Hurricane's on, folks. Rain just started setting in. I just went outside and walked around in it a little bit. It feels good to me. Wind's picking up. Here we go. It's going to be a long weekend, long, wet weekend. I think it's going to be fun myself, but that's just me. Anywho, the answer to the previous is Friday. Payday Friday. Woo woo. That's what I'm talking about. Happy Friday. Get your Friday dance on. Get outside. Dance in the rain. Hurricane weather. Hurricane party. Something like that. Anyways, answer to the previous trivia question was a recession. If you hadn't figured this out yet, the Great Recession, the so-called Great Recession of 2008, was the sharp decline in economic activity in the late 2000s after the bursting of what is known as the United States housing bubble. Okay, it's considered the most significant downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Notice I put emphasis on great. The term Great Recession was actually a play-on term from the Great Depression, the Great Recession. And the reason for that is the Great Recession was considered the most severe economic recession in the United States since that 1930 time period. It was a big deal, folks. I remember it very, very distinctly. In response to the Great Recession, unprecedented physical, monetary, and regulatory policy was unleashed by federal authorities and put into action, which some credit with the subsequent recovery, and some talking heads say it caused more problems to begin with, as is often the case when you're experiencing economic downturn, a decline in economic activity. Okay, it can get complicated. A lot of hands can get in the cookie jar trying to figure these things out. And sometimes it can do more damage than it can do good when you're trying to work a country out of situations like this. Now, according to a 2011 report by the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, the Great Recession was avoidable. And that just gets under my skin, really. With 2008, this was avoidable. You know, and all the resources that we have now and that we had in 2008, we still couldn't avoid something like this. Inexcusable. I'm sorry, inexcusable if you ask me. A couple of boxes to check off as far as factors and contributable things that may have caused this. Okay, toxic mortgage lending was first and foremost. There were low interest rates rushing out of the so-called .com era, late 90s into the 2000s, which made generous home loans available, right, to anybody. This would cause the housing bubble to soon to grow and eventually burst. Again, inexcusable. You know, just handing out home loans to people who were clearly not qualified for them. That's crazy. That's crazy. What was known as shadow banking existed, which equated to too many financial firms taking on too much risk. It's okay to take healthy risks, especially in a financial sense, but you have to be careful. There were low interest rates rushing out of the .com era, which made, I already mentioned generous home loans available. So this resulted in the inability of over-leveraged banks and financial institutions to eventually meet its long-term debts and financial obligations. This is known as solvency, right? Couldn't pay back the debts, right? Everything, all these factors culminated to a breaking point. All right, and you throw in excessive borrowing by consumers, which was also going on, you got yourself a recession, folks. Yikes. I put yikes there. Yeah, really. You got yourself a crash. And on September 29th of 2008, the stock market crashed. This was following Congress's inability to pass an act which was designed to kind of help this. And that failed after the House of Representatives. As soon as that failed, the stock market crashed, and we were off and running in a Great Recession. Cool geek factoids here. A lot of lay people, I think this is interesting. This is kind of my observations. A lot of lay people started paying more attention to these types of things afterwards. Suddenly, when the Federal Reserve issued statements, everybody kind of got up on their toes and put their ears to the wall and were paying attention after this. Before that, Janet Yellen, I think, was the chair back then. If my research serves me correctly, it may have been somebody else. I think it was Janet Yellen, who is now in Biden's administration. When she would talk, people just kind of they were listening, but they really weren't listening. And after this happened, whenever the Federal Reserve issued a statement, people were paying a lot more attention. Okay, everyone kind of got into politics too. Everyone was paying attention to their elected leaders. They were saying to themselves, we're not going to do this again. It became a little more savvier with politics, with financial aspects, with the economy, right? Became a little bit more knowledgeable. We also became savvier with doing more with less. We had to. I know a ton of people who've moved back in with their parents, a ton of college graduates during this time. No shame. They had to. Had to do what you had to do. According to official Federal Reserve data, the Great Recession lasted 18 months, from 2007 to 2009. And I hate it when economists and reports like this come out saying, "Hey, it only lasted 2 years." You tell that to people. I put a little graph over here on the right-hand side. It says unemployment was still above 9% in 2010. So you tell those people, right, that the recession ended in 2009. It wasn't for me. It lasted a lot longer for me. I felt the effects of it well after 2009. So that always bothers me when they put out reports and they finalize and conclude stuff that's that you never bother asking the real people out there. quite frankly, it was a mess, folks. I remember living through this. I truly do. Most recent economic crises that could easily be considered recessions include, say it with me, COVID. Without question, this 2020 pandemic, the stimulus efforts pumped into the economy, which we're living through now. So there's a perfect example, right, of a onset of something that, not necessarily avoidable, like the Great Recession of 2008 was, or so they say. You have a global pandemic that happens, causes economic turmoil, and we pump money into the economy. So did we pump too much? Did it do good? If you ask me, we shouldn't have put out that cycle of that last stimulus check, that last round of stimulus checks. I think we should have stopped after the first one or two. I don't remember how many there were, but we're paying for it now. We came close, if not, to being in a recession and making up for that kind of stuff. So COVID 2020 is a perfect example. A lot of people, talking heads, economists, politicians, water cooler groups and so forth, your Monday morning water cooler groups, they argue about what constitutes or defines a recession. You still hear that. Are we in a recession? Biden will often get on CNN and other talking networks and say, we're not necessarily in a recession, when economists on the other end of the aisle are saying, wait a minute now, we checked off all these boxes. We most certainly are. So everyone I know certainly agrees that there's nothing great about a recession, no matter which way you look at it. All right, folks, enough talk about recessions. My goodness gracious, let's get a hurricane weekend party started right now. We got to get through Friday first, but let's do it right here, right now for September 30th. Brand new trivia question. On this day in 1954 in Groton, Connecticut, the Nautilus is officially commissioned, becoming the first of these to use nuclear propulsion as a source of power to operate. That's all the clues I'm going to give you, folks. Well, here's the Beatles with the clue. Have a good day. Have a fabulous Friday. A wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves. And thanks for all you do. Peace out.